and welcome to Assembly Update. I'm Audrey Pitcher, talking today with Assemblyman Jeffrey Dinowitz from the 81st Assembly District in the Bronx. Assemblyman, thank you very much for joining us.
It is so good to be back in Albany after our President's Week break.
Now, we had some spirited debate about a chapter amendment to a bill that you are sponsoring, the Climate Change Superfund Act.
We passed the bill on the last night of session at about, 3 o'clock in the morning. Last year we had a 2.5 hour debate, and I've talked about this bill a lot because it's really one of the most significant bills that we've passed, certainly that I've passed. But in order to get the governor's signature, we had to negotiate with her, with the Senate, the Assembly, and we made a few changes, and then the governor signed the bill, and the Republicans thought it was important to debate what's called a chapter amendment, which is essentially the changes we agreed to in order to secure the governor's signature on the original bill. And amazingly, as long as the original debate was, the chapter amendment, which had some changes but wasn't the big bill itself, the debate lasted longer than the original debate. Now, I don't know if they think that they're going to wear me down. I love these debates. I really enjoy going back and forth because, and essentially what happens is they say something that makes no sense, in my opinion, and then I, give the facts, and it goes back and forth. So we did that for a couple of hours. I guess the only disappointment was I was really raring to go to debate even more because I really want to get the information out there as to what this bill does. And in a nutshell, what it does is it assigns an amount of money that will be assessed to the worst polluters that have caused climate change. So any polluter, usually fossil fuel companies, that have emitted over a period of 25 years from 2000 to 2024, that have emitted at least 1 billion tons of CO2, those are the companies that will have to pay this assessment, and it will be divided proportionately among those companies based on how much filth they put into the air. And it would generate $3 billion a year, which is really a tiny fraction of what we need to raise to fix the mess that they caused, and it would do it in each for 25 years. So it passed. The governor presumably will sign this chapter amendment, and we have to spend the amount of money we have to spend just to help protect Manhattan, protect Long Island from flooding, and places all around the state. We've had in my own district events that took place in the past few years that have never taken place before. We had this huge flooding on the Major Deegan, right in the Kingsbridge neighborhood of my district, because of Hurricane Ida. This was a few years ago. Never had that. Never saw flooding. It was like, I'm not exaggerating, it was this high. We had last year wildfires in Van Cortlandt Park and other places, of course, around the city. And these are all because of climate change, because what's happened in recent years is various weather events have happened more frequently and in a more extreme manner. So we've had more hurricanes, more severe hurricanes, 100-year storms that happen, almost every other year, 500-year storms that have happened on several occasions. And this is not normal, but it's a result of climate change. And much of the blame for climate change is attributable to these fossil fuel companies who are, filthying up the air. They knew what they were doing, and they did it anyway because they were making, a lot of money, and then they denied it. But other industries have done the same thing, whether it's pharmaceuticals or tobacco, have done that in the past. So this will be litigated. The law won't take effect for a few years, but it'll be litigated. I think almost 24 Republican states are suing New York to stop this from happening, along with several oil companies. So the Republicans and the oil companies are like this. So they've decided that it's more important to represent the big money interests of the oil companies rather than their own constituents. But the bill passed. One of the Republicans at the end even got up and said something like, he's tired of, because the New York State DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, would have a lot to say about how this money is distributed. And he said something like, I'm tired of all these unelected bureaucrats, I don't know, spending our money telling us what to do. And my response at the end was, Elon Musk. I mean, what are they talking about? This is like hypocrisy at its worst. But we passed it, and it's really going to be meaningful in the long run. And it's just a small fraction of the money we need to deal with the environment. And as we always say, most people's moms would have said to them, if you make a mess, clean it up. And that's what we want the oil companies to do.
Absolutely. Now, going back to some of the issues we've been having in New York City, there's been some recent controversy over New York City Mayor Eric Adams and his potential connections to the new Republican administration. Can you speak on that a bit?
Sure. Listen, he can be connected to whomever he wants, but what's happened is very concerning because he had been indicted. He had several indictments against him, and the Trump Justice Department has indicated that they want to have those indictments dismissed. And they also want the mayor's support on the administration's dealing with, particularly with the migrant crisis. Now, they want it dismissed, what's called without prejudice. What does that mean? It means that the indictment can be brought back. So if the judge does allow the indictments to be dismissed without prejudice, it means that the threat of being indicted again for the very same charges will be hanging over the mayor's head. So what does that mean? To many people, it means that he's under Trump's thumb, basically, and that he's going to have to do that. And there will be some people who would say that Trump is a Russian asset. I'm not saying that's true. I'm not saying it's not true. So if Trump is a Russian asset and Adams is under Trump's thumb, I mean, you do the math. It's really shocking that New York could possibly have a mayor that is influenced, or even more than influenced, by outside forces. In this case, this rogue president that we have, and it's kind of frightening. So there are people who want him to resign. There are others who've said that the governor should remove him, which the governor can there's a procedure to do that. The governor has suggested she's not going to remove him, but wants the legislature to pass some laws that would, for the rest of the administration, kind of rein him in, so to speak. But it's a situation we've never really had in New York, where the mayor is not answerable primarily to the people of the city, the voters, the people who voted for or against him, for that matter, but rather is answerable to one individual, namely the President of the United States. And that's not good for New York. It's not good for democracy. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And now that we're in the middle of a campaign, without getting into the politics of it, the primary election, the Democratic primary and a Republican primary, if there is one, is on June 24th. So that's 4 months away. So how all that, plays, I imagine that that voters may want to take this situation into account when they cast their votes. And we have a very large field of people who are running for mayor. So it'll be very interesting.
So it sounds like you favor allowing him to stay in office rather than putting pressure on him to leave and letting the voters decide in 4 months?
I wouldn't say I favor him staying in office. I would say that I'm not one of the people who quickly jumps to say that somebody should resign. I mean, I don't, it would be surprising to me that he gets reelected. I mean, anything can happen. That's why I like to make it a habit not to make predictions on elections, but I would be very surprised if he won. So he'll be out, presumably, as of January 1st of next year. That's 10 months away. So should he resign? I don't know that it matters that much, but there are those who, are adamant that he should resign, or at least others that say he shouldn't run. What would I do if I were in his shoes? I don't think I would resign if I were in his shoes, but I'm not so sure I would run again either if I were him. But I think this situation will likely resolve itself. But having a mayor who, for 10 months, is going to be answerable to one person, Trump, and not the people in the city of New York, is not good. And that's, I guess, that's why some people think he should resign. And to me, the indictments were bad, but they were just indictments. An accusation is not the same as a conviction, but they certainly were very troubling. But to me, this situation is more troubling than the actual indictments themselves, because it certainly gives the appearance that this mayor has basically sold himself to the president in order to get very unusual treatment by the Justice Department. And what's just as bad, it looks to me, and this is my opinion, that the president or the administration essentially corrupted the Justice Department, and that's really a very dangerous precedent to have been set. And so we're in a very strange situation, and to add to all of that, we have the former governor who seems very likely to be running for mayor, so the campaign is going to be very interesting, I would say.
Definitely. So you said that you suspect Cuomo will be also running for the mayoral race? It
certainly seems that way. Perhaps by the time this is shown, he will have declared his candidacy. I don't know. I have not spoken with him. But he's certainly making all the moves that one would expect a candidate to make. But one way or another, we'll know soon. The period of time to collect signatures on party petitions to get on the ballot actually starts today being Tuesday, February 25th, the primary again being on June 24th. So there's a limited period. The last day to file those petitions is Thursday, April 3rd. So one way or another, we are going to know very soon whether he is running, and of course that probably would shake up the whole field. So interesting times.
Definitely. We are definitely seeing some interesting things happening both at the state level and on the national level, and we look forward to talking to you about that later.
Okay. Well, it's good to have been here again.